Super fighting robot, Megaman. Old video game cartoons really are something else, aren't they? Now, this was from the last video covered of all those weird 80s Nintendo cartoons. A video I really wish more people would see. Like, you two completely screwed that one over. Please see it, I promise it's good. And while talking about an infamous aspect of one of those shows, I brought up the Ruby Spears Megaman Cartoon. Now, I was originally gonna make that old video games cartoons video, but I just made it Nintendo, one to be more streamlined, and two, this cartoon really deserves its own video. Now, Mega Man has become one of the icons of gaming, one of the most famous video game IPs from the original game on the NES, to the many spin-offs and sequels it has received. But it is still weird that, like those Nintendo shows, that Capcom still managed to make an American cartoon. Granted, like those Nintendo shows, they weren't really made by the Japanese studios, as much as just licensed it to an American producer to do their best with the property, with maybe some influence on the end product. So things can be really similar or take a huge detraction from the source material. Now, this cartoon has had somewhat of a memorable impact, with people loving, hating, or just kind of okay with it existing, and has a place in internet culture with the many memes it spawned. At least, I hope people remember these. Geez, I really don't want to feel old. But still, compared to the wild and wacky world of Nintendo cartoons, it does beg the question, how does it compare? Especially since this show was in the mid-90s, with much more source material to work with in those crazy shows. And I really want to give this cartoon a fair shot. Just take a look at it with no personal biases and compare it and see if it actually holds up or has some interesting aspects, especially compared to the franchise as we know it now. I want to see if it's actually better than how its reputation would say it is. And hey, what better time than Mega Man? So yeah, it's time to take a dive into the weird world of the Ruby Spears Megaman cartoon. Now, I have played and completed a handful of Mega Man games, so I do consider myself decently knowledgeable in the franchise, at least enough to know how accurate this cartoon got to the source material at the time. And hey, there's something I personally relate to, as I also have to fight against an evil piece of technology whenever I upload a video. It's almost cathartic. Now, this wasn't the first Mega Man cartoon, as the year before, a sort of test pilot came for the Mega Man OVA, Wish Upon a Star, which has a more faithful look and feel of the games, which I'll get into more. Except Mega Man gets like isekai to the real world. Okay, this is super weird.
And what are you doing?
It's Mega Man! He's the hero from inside the game.
What?
Oh god, this is becoming Sonic X. But Ruby Spears was given the proper reference art and games to work with, so they could make an accurate depiction of the world. But apparently, due to focus testing, it was deemed that American audiences wouldn't like the cartoonish chibi style of the games, and redesigned everything for a more realistic humanoid look to all the characters, and aging Mega to more of a teenager than a kid like he's usually depicted. Why isn't he named Mega Kid then? I'll get to some more of that later, but honestly, I don't mind the more realistic art style. The characters are still mostly adapted accurately, even with the new look, and I can see that some players probably already imagined the world looking something like this, and also that even the franchise later on would adapt a similar realistic anime style like in the recently released Mega Man X, so I really don't consider it that much of a deal breaker. I still even like how some of it shines through that the characters are drawn with these big goofy eyes that kind of emulate the chibi art style. But also, I think that turning Mega Man into a fun action show works super well with the source material of the combat and adventure of the many different levels and the multiple different antagonists to work with. Not to mention the games are already pretty episodic to begin with. Now, for those who don't know, the first Mega Man game's story was that in the futuristic world of 20XX, the world is well inhabited by advanced technology and robots. The genius Dr. Light first made a prototype humanoid robot, Protoman, which ran away, more on him later, and made 2 domestic robots with advanced human-like programming, Rock and Roll, and 6 particular robots, the Robot Masters, with advanced abilities to help out in particular industries: Cutman, Gutsman, Electman, Fireman, Iceman, and Ballman. No, not him. However, Dr. Light's former partner, Dr. Wily, steals and reprograms the Robot Masters to do his bidding to weaponize them and take over the world, his MO for the rest of the series. In order to stop them, Rock volunteers to be rebuilt as a super fighting robot to fight back against Dr. Wily, including a unique ability to copy the special ability of a defeated Robot Master, and basically save the world again and again from a new set of Robot Masters. Interesting, but pretty simple, so let's see how the cartoon adapts this. Okay, but before we do, first the theme song. Holy hell, it's awesome. It's only 4 words repeated, but the instrumentation and especially the incredible animation makes it exhilarating. Please check it out.
Super fighting robot, Megaman. Super fighting robot, Megaman.
Like really, what a kick-ass opening. It's incredible and gets you pumped. People joke like, oh my god, did they spend the whole budget on the intro sequence? It's so much better animated than this show. And it's like, of course, every show's intro is better animated than the show itself. That's not really a problem. But yeah, the anime influence is on point here with so much flashy and fluid animation and action, even weirdly reusing some clips from the original Pitch pilot. But yeah, it's awesome. Seriously, that final part is so anime. Some might say it brings people's hopes up too much, but let's continue to see if that holds any water. Luckily, we get an origin episode as the very first one, granted in a bit of a weird way. It starts introducing the modern city as an airport is suddenly attacked by the robot masters from the first game, which makes you fully realize how terrifying this world is to live in, like Jesus. Wily somehow thinks that taking over an airport lets him control a city? How?
Call me crazy, insane, mad.
They called me mad, insane, Wendell.
At Dr. Light's lab, Mega Man and Roll heat the call to action, but Mega tells Roll to stay behind because he's a mega misogynist.
Don't need any girl robots getting in my way.
Which he doesn't and joins up anyway. And it's a pretty bad call as Mega fights the Masters and shows off his power-stealing abilities, taking down Bomb Man and fighting Protoman, while he's second in command, and Mega's brother with the fierce I will be the one to destroy you mentality. Roll, though, is able to somehow destroy Fireman with their vacuum? Jesus, how is that possible? Also, he never shows up again, by the way. But she gets in over her head as Mega Man has to sacrifice himself to save her as she and Eddie take them to the lab for safety. Then initiating the flashback to show the origins, showing Dr. Light and Dr. Wily working together on the first Protoman and his other robot helper plans. Also, Light keeps saying robots and not robots.
Prototype robot. Hundreds of industrial and domestic robots. Construction robots. Mining robots, marine robots.
I don't think you got the right idea there, dude. Then again, I guess it is a staple for Dr. Light to mispronounce things constantly.
Recover all the energy immediately, Mega Man? It's a good question. We may be able to locate another energy emission from the radar room. Where this energy came from, but we cannot let it fall into Dr. Wily's hands.
Who then went haywire with Dr. Wily refusing to start progress over and stealing the blueprints for himself and disappearing, using the plans for himself and making the new Protoman. Also saying that he never had any toys and predicting the AI takeover.
Have I even had toys like the other kids? And now I'll build all the toys I want! But are so much superior. My robots will be made to supervise mankind.
Months later, Rock and Roll, as revitalized robots free from their former mistakes, were activated and become a happy family. And then Light shows off the robot masters he's also made to help people. That is until Protoman and Wily break in to reprogram the robot masters he'll weaponize to take over the world, and steal Rock and Roll going to forcefully reprogram them. Also, he somehow had his infamous castle made, but then again it's never explained how in the game either. Though in a completely idiotic move, he believes Rock's random lie and lets him go because he thinks that robots can't lie. It's really dumb. In order to stop Dr. Wily, Rock volunteers to be rebuilt as a robot fighter since his emotions and compassion make him a perfect fit, becoming Mega Man and also giving him Rush, the robot dog from Mega Man 3, who can shift into different vehicles. Mega in the present manages to wake up and gets revitalized by Eddie, more on him later, to go back to the airport where Wily has plastered his ugly mug all over the place. And Mega thrashes Cutman, which will become a running thing from now on, and utilizes his weapon much more than he did, but then deals with the rest, even Roll pretty gruesomely destroying Electman. Also, it seems Protoman is able to take Robot Master abilities, which is a thing, he never does it again. And I thought Mega was gonna syndrome him, but no. However, before he can get Light to reprogram Proto back to good, Wily takes him and the broken Robot Masters to be repaired. You know, this has always kind of bothered me in the series. Like, I always thought that after the games that the Robot Masters were rebuilt and reprogrammed for good like many were intended, and even helped in lore as long as the IC chip in their body isn't damaged, they can be rebuilt. But a lot of games never clarified that, and I feel bad because I'm basically killing a bunch of mind-controlled sapient beings. But anyway, the day is saved. They seem to acknowledge that robots repair all the damages, which I hope is true for the rest of the show, and end on a laugh with Rush antics. So, honestly, I'd say a pretty good episode. Does a good job of adapting the game's story, even with some changes like Wily stealing the blueprints when they work together, and Wily making Protoman to be evil when Proto was purely a light creation who escaped and was fixed by Wily, and eventually was more of an anti-hero than a villain. And still has some good action and set pieces all throughout, and does a good job with the characters. Great introduction to the show going forward, and I recommend anyone who wants to try to give the series a shot check out this episode to see if it's to your liking. but we should dive into how the show handles the characters. First off, Rock or Mega Man. Okay, I know Rock and Roll fits the music motif of the characters, even Protoman is named Blues despite being red, but imagine actually naming your kid Rock. Now, I've covered the design changes and how I think it's fine. Personality-wise, it's a bit different. I mean, Mega was not given much of a personality in the games themselves. He was kind of a blank slate you can imagine anything with. Here, Mega is a smart, wisecracking, but kind of doofy, well-meaning hero protagonist. Think kind of like Sonic in a way, so Blue Blur meets Blue Bomber. Again, I don't mind it since Mega doesn't have much characterization, and it was the 90s, so that was kind of the expected hero attributes. And I never found him too annoying or overbearing. Like, I'm sure the 90s characterization might be a lot for people, and might think of it as a betrayal for the character, but I didn't mind it. I mean, I just got back from Cartoon Link. This is freaking miraculous in comparison. Also, he's more teenage than kid, like he's depicted a lot. I can give it a pass though, like everyone already has those chibi proportions in the game style, and we're the same height, so he could be interpreted as older really, and I think it's needed for the art shift. I mean, after Captain N, I'm just glad to see a Mega Man that looks remotely like him. People might complain how Mega Man doesn't always go for the blaster, but goes melee, but that makes sense given how in this series, he actually needs to touch the Robot Masters to take their powers to get the advantage. Which is another detraction from the game, but I think it works in story as a better way for Mega Man to get powers from Robot Masters, especially since so many come back. It also seems that the powers are temporary with short uses before they wear off, so Mega can't just keep an arsenal. I think it works well, it leads to some infamous memes. Also, amazingly, he's voiced by Ian James Corlett, who actually voiced Dr. Wily and Captain N. Holy hell, that's amazing. Like, what a coincidence. So yeah, Mega Man, while kinda different, was still pretty good, I feel. Roll, though, is a lot different, being a feisty, sassy action girl than the lovable small cinnamon roll she is in game. This is done a lot by the aging of the character for the new direction, and I can see it putting a lot of hardcore fans off from the insane differences, but I think it works really well here. I never really care for Roll because she's really not much of a character, and mostly it's just a supportive off-screen role, and be a link to Rock's family life before it became Mega Man. But here, Roll is given a much more active role, being just as action-hungry and feisty as Mega is, and helping out a lot. So she's used a lot more in the actual episode, so it makes sense to expand her personality and versatility to support it, and I actually prefer this because it's more of an engaging character. Granted, it does kind of become a 90s style, not like the other girl's character, but it's not done too badly or overly overtly only a handful of times. She's not like Zelda good, but she's definitely up there. Though because she's in the action so much, she does express a desire to actually become a crime fighter like Mega Man, but it's kind of shut down a lot that she should just stay a domestic housekeeper. Yeah, the Mega misogyny is kind of apparent.
I'll have more time to concentrate on being a robo-hero.
No offense, Roll, but I think you better stick to your housework.
I know in the games it's reasonable that Roll isn't given the Mega treatment, but here she actively expresses a desire, and Wily's a constant recurring threat, so there's really no reason not to. But despite that, Roll's no slouch in a fight, able to stand her own in a brawl and some clever tactics, but her household appliances are actually used pretty well. Yeah, I know the obvious Mega made jokes, but Roll's arm is basically a massive superpowered Swiss army knife and has some surprisingly really strong victories against other robot masters, like remember Fireman? Even her design I like. I mean, I know it's different and probably subjective, but I love it. I think it has a great design that keeps the spirit of her original, but updates it for the new role she has. I love the mechanic jumpsuit, it's so cute. I think I prefer this over the actual one. So yeah, Roll's different, but I actually really like her even more than the original. Rush is also here, and he's a lot like in the games. A cool dog companion who has a bunch of cool different vehicle modes. He is also designed accurately, but they did give him a Scooby-Doo mentality.
Oh no! Blast proof! Oh, big trouble! Big trouble!
I guess it makes sense since Ruby and Spears originally played a part in the creation of Scooby-Doo, and come on, you can't tell me that Rush already wasn't inspired by the Great Dane. Though the question is, why'd they give them a dog mentality and speech impediment if he's a robot? Then again, a talking dog is weird and only works if he's voiced by John DiMaggio. That's the only exception.
You heartless monster! Do you have any idea how much he's cried over you?
Look, no offense, kid, but we don't got time for no dress rehearsal. It's showtime.
I mean, look at Once Upon a Star. Ew, it's weird.
Mega Man, how come everyone is sitting on the passenger side?
He's also the comic relief of the show, getting the butt of antics and slapstick situations, but hey, unless they delegate most of it to one goofy animal sidekick. Wonder if Beach should be in this. It's a bit off, but hey, it works and it's fitting enough. Then Dr. Light. Light, like Roll, doesn't have too much characterization in the games, but unlike her, he's virtually exactly the same, being Mega Man's father figure and a well-renowned and respected scientist trying to help humanity with his work. And yeah, it's accurate both ways, just as his character is more expanded, focusing more on his goodwill and dedication to his craft, and showing off more the family dynamic between the characters. Light is world-renowned here, which does make Dr. Wily's fight against him more apparent. But Light really pushes his genius to the extreme. Like, you'll see how insane his craft is. This dude can make pretty much anything. He's a living Deus Ex Machina. Also, with his black eyes, it does kind of make him look really weird in a few shots, making him look almost high or something. But still, he doesn't have too much. Oh yeah, there's also Eddie. You know Eddie. Everyone knows Eddie. He's that guy from 4, remember him? Basically, his main job is to come out and give Mega some E-Tanks to restore his power, a lot like in the game, basically a glorified vending machine, but he's happy with it at least. Though the E-Tank design is so different, look like cans of 7-Up. I don't even know what's in E-Tanks, they never explain it despite its iconicness. This cartoon makes me headcanon that it's filled with McDonald's Sprite. That's the only drink I can believe can charge robots up. Then to our main antagonist, Dr. Wily. Dr. Wily I feel is one of the most iconic video game villains, constantly being the main villain of the classic series, and the final boss with his fortress and many machines. But now, a lot of his villainy and character is expanded upon, and honestly, yeah, I think it's perfect. Now, in-game, Wily doesn't really show off himself, but his twistedness is really apparent in just how hard he tries to keep his scheme with his arsenal, and how much of a pathetic little weasel he is when he's defeated, literally begging for forgiveness. But the show really does focus on how sick and twisted this guy is, and his determination to take over the world by any cost. In the games, you never really got a scope of him actually taking over the world. The most you get is assuming the areas the Robot Masters take over, but here it's right on screen. With every episode, a new plan to commit crimes to leverage the world, and this dude will really stop at nothing. He actively topples cities and endangers innocent people's lives as the fearmonger control of the world. Notably in episodes where he makes an earthquake generator device and actively uses it to topple cities to strong-arm control from the masses, definitely killing some people, and also making a massive space laser he threatens the UN with to randomly just disintegrate entire cities. Like, Jesus Christ, dude, calm down. Actually, no, not even mentioning one of his most psychotic plans I'll get to. Yeah, this genuinely makes Wily feel like a threatening villain, but also a lot of the cunning and ruthlessness in his plans, getting ahead of the heroes so often, and getting dangerously close to completing his plans. Sometimes going to the active process and creating so much death and destruction. Not to mention his performance from Scott McNeil, it's actually a lot deeper than you'd expect, but it's played so well and threatening and really accentuates his mad nature, especially in the first episode. Like, it's actually really great.
Plan is going perfectly, Protoman. Once the airport is mine, I'll control the city.
But even still, Wily shows his inherent cowardice the few times that he doesn't have the advantage as well. I actually really love this version of Dr. Wily, and it might be my personal favorite, and to me his best incarnation. Then again, I haven't played every Mega Man game, so maybe I'm wrong. Though I wonder why he's based off Albert Einstein while Light was based off Thomas Edison. I mean, Edison has become the controversial figure, known for stealing inventions. He feels more suited to the evil scientist. I mean, what do Japanese people have against Albert Einstein? Okay, yeah, that makes sense. Protoman, though, is another weird case. Now, in the games, he appeared in Mega Man 3 first as a mini-boss, but later on does a heel-face turn and helps Mega and the others. Though he never really does become a true part of the team, more of a mysterious lone wolf who helps out. In the show, he was upgraded by Dr. Wily and serves as basically his dragon. No, not that one. Usually, when the Robot Masters fail, Proto goes hand to hand with Mega Man since they have a ton of beef with each other, but also a weird respect. Both acknowledge that they're brothers but are on the other side, with Proto actually wanting Mega to become evil like him, or if he refuses, be the one who destroys him. But even then, there's a level of actual camaraderie between them that they don't actually want to destroy each other, but to restore a sense of family in a way. It's actually a really interesting dynamic. That makes me wish this was canon because Proto really works as a weird anti-Mega Man in this case, and has a lot of interesting conflicts and confrontation. Like, I really think it's one of the more interesting aspects introduced in the show. Though ironically, this whole Wily made Mega Man copy who hates him would be a thing with Bass the next year when Mega Man 7 came out. It might have been an influence, weirdly enough. Though he's also the one Robot Master with a sense of his own free will and actively defies Wily and sabotages his plans for his own vendetta. Sure, he can be a bit too much of the snarky evil for evil villain, but I think it's interesting enough that it works, and I'm really a sucker for these types of dynamics. Now, the Robot Masters also get their time to shine, as there's a surprising amount of them that make it in. Like, it's really a treat for fans that your favorite Robot Master boss is probably going to make at least one appearance. Now, usually they cycle through them, some only getting one episode, and other a fair amount. You name it, Metal Man, Pharaoh Man, Wood Man, even freaking Hard Man.
I'm Hard Man, and you're gonna have a hard time beating me.
The only exception are Cut Man and Guts Man, who appear in every episode for some reason. By that logic, they would be the best, most reliable ones, but they're usually all complete jobbers who get folded super easily by Mega Man. Cutman especially, whose main characterization is just kind of being pathetic and having a weird Peter Lorre voice.
I'm going to make paper dolls out of you!
Like really, his weapon is the most inconsistently powerful one of all, where Mega is so often able to just use it better than him. Granted, he already is kind of a joke in the games. Then again, it makes sense that he's beaten by Rock. Still better than how Captain N handled it. Jesus Christ, look at this thing. Gutsman is at least a little better, being the biggest and strongest Robot Master and can hold somewhat of his own in a fight, but still is often done in relatively easily and is pretty stupid. These two are honestly more so comic relief, and it makes me wish that they also got cycled around to have more Robot Master variety. I mean, Electman and Bombman get a few other appearances. Iceman only gets one, though it is a main appearance, and Fireman doesn't appear again after the first episode. Like, why? He's one of the most threatening. Though the variety does help with the fight scenes and episodes, and how many powers Mega Man's able to take and use against the Masters. But unlike the games, Mega usually only uses the power against the original user to greater effects, or in the game, a Master is usually only weak to another weapon, so that's weird. I guess Mega really is built different. Though it is confusing how Wily is able to make so many. In the games, the Robot Masters come from a variety of places, some by Light, some by Wily, and some from completely other scientists he steals for his own gain. But there's no explanation in the show for where these came from, so like there's no Dr. Cossack in the show to explain who made masters like Pharaoh Man. So in the show it seems that Wily just made them all wow. But it does bother me how they never make an effort to retake the Robot Masters and reprogram them to be good. Like literally, just take that device for yourself and you need to be defenseless. So now with that out of the way, how about the show itself? People kind of dig on this show for being too wacky or cheesy, and that you can only appreciate it in a so bad it's good kind of way, but I think it's really unfair. Because this show really isn't too different from a lot of other shows made roughly in the same time period. Like really, shows like Transformers G1 or especially Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles could be just as cheesy and wacky as this show, if not even more at times, but those get a pass because they're nostalgic classics. But then these video game shows do the same thing and they're just terrible? Like what gives, guys? I think you can enjoy these shows just fine. Like what's the matter? Are you allergic to some cheese? I feel we also forget that the classic series really wasn't plot heavy at all, and had incredibly simplistic one-note plots, and a lot of them were pretty stupid as well. Most obviously Mega Man 6, where this mysterious guy named Mr. X hosts a robot fighting tournament. I wonder who it could possibly be. Yeah, no, in universe it's a legitimate surprise that it's Dr. Wily in a $7 Party City disguise. And the show isn't that dumb. Or Mega Man 3, hey, Dr. Wily's good now, and he says we should make a giant peacekeeping robot together. For peace. Oh no, he was lying and now took control of the giant killer robot. We're all stupid. And even much after, Mega Man 9 had Wily frame Dr. Light for making an army of evil robots, and Dr. Wily somehow legit convincing people he needs to make an army of his own to counter Lights, and ask for donations like some legit telethon of evil stuff. So yeah, let's not pretend that games at the time were above this type of writing. Now, the writing quality really changes depending on the episode, but I'd still say for the most part they're fine and actually pretty imaginative in execution. Like so many of these I can fully see happening in the world of the games. The second episode, An Electric Nightmare, has Wily hijacked a power system of the city, making all electronics and robots go haywire, somehow under his control and attacking people. You know, Mitchell's versus the Machines is exactly like that. I guess it is the future. Probably everything has those future smart chips that totally won't backfire. But with all these things going haywire, it really brings to mind all the evil robot enemies of the games. Also, Ro rips a mind-controlled woman's face off. It also gives us the legendary moment with Pharaoh Man after just getting his powers copied.
Now I've got your power.
smartest move anyone's ever done. Too bad he loses like immediately after. I think it's a solid episode, and like, again, this show is better than its reputation. I think people just have like an incredibly high standard with modern arc-based storytelling and forget it largely wasn't a thing at this era, aside from like a few exceptions. Season 1 as we go forward, I think it's a lot of solid episodes and plots with only a few relative outliers. Also, we need to talk about episode 3, Mega Pinocchio, where a doctor offers to turn Mega Man to a real boy. What the hell, robots becoming human? How does that make sense? Also, this was literally an entire episode and kept it in. I'm not kidding, did they steal this idea from that? But no, they don't go that far, as he can't really turn a robot human. Yet. It turns out this was a ploy for Wily to make a fake robot scientist that offer Mega a chance to be a real boy and feel real emotions, but instead basically mind control Mega Man with his helmet to discredit Dr. Light and ruin his reputation. Wait, that kind of happened in Mega Man 9, weird. It also gave us 2 memes for the price of 1.
Oh no, he's gonna blast President Lincoln!
Mega Man, you patriotic doofus! Though it's also an introspection of Mega Man and how genuine his programmed emotions and feelings are. It's actually pretty interesting. They also have some interesting set locations, like a few oceanic ones. One where Dr. Wily is trying to harvest rare materials in an underwater mine, where a good chunk of the episode is set underwater with some fitting robot masters like Wave and Dive Man. Too bad Splash Woman wasn't invented yet, she'd fit right in. But more importantly, the security system takes control of Dr. Light's house! Also, another cool set piece was entirely in space, making me wonder how casual space travel must be in 20XX. Dr. Wily hijacks a spaceship and then a space station to re-engineer it to a massive space laser he threatens to just decimate entire cities with if he's not named the ruler of the world by the UN. Again, that's so insane. But again, I love the new set piece of space and some cool and kind of brutal fight scenes, taking advantage of the characters being robots to survive the environment. Iceman also gets a main role in a Wily plot, but okay, Iceman is probably the cutest, simplest design in Mega Man 1. The dude looks like a double of one of the Ice Climbers. Though his sprite is interpreted differently than its official design, kind of looking like Arthur in a parka. But honestly, I think I like it more than the official design. But holy hell, I was completely unprepared for his voice, like you will not expect it.
I'm afraid he's caught a chill and won't be able to help you. We just want your new Super Freeze technology.
Yeah, when I think of this guy, I think of a Boston Mafia member. He also grows a rivalry with Airman, which is an interesting idea, though Airman is one of the robot masters whose design is like truly different from the game. I kind of like it though. I mean, the original design did basically make him look like a Poliwhirl, but this episode has Wily utilize the robots in an absolute zero formula to literally generate massive glaciers to decimate entire cities. Again, combined with this and the earthquake device that has legitimately toppled entire cities, this Wily has an absolutely insane body count. Like, no way in hell did no one die from this. Thousands of people are dead. Should have called this episode The Iceman Cometh. But again, I love the variety of schemes and the new locations they bring. Unfortunately, one of them is a mind control plot, but hey, you know, at least this one is done somewhat better. But also, like, it depends on Wily sending sound waves to take over human minds to become human robots. Okay, dude, what's the deal? Humans aren't really good slaves compared to robots. Just keep making robots. Though Wily makes a popular band out of a handful of robot masters to do so, and like, what? Did he like legit launch a famous music career for his boss that they're well known and possibly did this for months, maybe even years? This is so freaking wild. Though yeah, there are plenty of out there and goofy plots. The incredible shrinking Mega Man has Wily make a device to shrink anything and test it on Mega and Rush, making them only about an inch tall. You know, that would be a cool idea for a Robot Master fight. Wily used it to straight up pull a Brainiac and shrink entire cities to carry in these domes a la Candor. This wouldn't work for a variety of reasons, but you need to accept it for the trope. He plans to sell America's important cities to criminals for billions of dollars, which, okay, isn't a terrible plan, but at that point, you can like actually threaten the world and shrink all central power locations to basically overthrow the world's governments. Also had a body swap episode, but it was one where the voices weren't switched, neat. But it also did a future episode. I think like every show is required to do one of these plots where we go to a future where the villain wins, but this is more interesting since Dr. Wily's plans for world domination have been a huge thing for every appearance, so seeing what that might look like even in semi-official capacity is really interesting. Here, Dr. Light really shows off his I can invent literally anything skills by making a full-blown time machine. But surprisingly, Wily doesn't get to steal it to take over the future, but Mega takes it because he's stupid and goes to the future to see with his and Rush's absence, Wily was free to take over without opposition. However, the future seems to be a standard techno-fascist one, but with a Wily taste of basically making a legion of police bots under him to enforce absolute law. Even more when Wily plans to increase production to survey every single street to ensure no opposition. So, wow, Wily's still at 30 years in him. I know he's older and has a cane, but still, that 20XX healthcare must be something else. Mega Man, though, is treated as a legend in the modern day of a good robot that once fought against the current dictator. It's interesting. He also imprisoned Roll and Dr. Light. Honestly, I feel it would make more sense for him to have killed him, and it would definitely increase the stakes, but I guess it would be too dark for standards and practices. I enjoyed the suspense and stakes of the story and kind of how it ended up. Also, it gave us Kung Fu Cutman.
Let's see how you do against Kung Fu Cutman!
God, he is really just pathetic. Wily knows Mega needed a time machine to potentially undo his absolute rule and plans to booby trap it, but it was foiled by Protoman. He said that he wanted to destroy Mega Man himself, but I feel like he actually wanted Mega Man to succeed and that this future isn't what it should be. I really like that subtext, or at least he's just bored. Of course, Mega is able to go back in time to stop the future, but I wonder about the future timeline characters. But still, I really enjoyed this episode, and it's another I recommend you give it a watch. So, okay, those episodes were kinda goofy, but at least they weren't relatively too out there. But there is one major exception this season. I know people point to the Lion Man episode as the pinnacle of the show's dumbness, and yeah, I'll get to that one soon. But this one might arguably top it. Robosaur Park. Okay, so Dr. Light works with this guy, Autoraptor, who has scaly skin and 4-fingered hands with talons. It's never acknowledged, so I'm just gonna assume he's some sort of radioactive mutant. He made a robotic dinosaur park with Dr. Light's robots to replicate prehistoric life in a sort of Jurassic Park style. Okay, that's pretty cool, no wonder it's a big hit. Wait, did this predict Slash Man stage in Mega Man 7? But Toad Man, yes, that's a real robot master. And he kinda looks like King Dedede. Sabotages the robot dinosaurs by Wily's instructions to make them go on a rampage and then uses acid rain power. It turns out that Otto was working with Wily the whole time and wanted Light's Robosaurs to be weaponized by Wily with the dumbest reasoning ever.
Because it was man who should have gone extinct, not the dinosaur.
What? Dude, dinosaurs died out millions of years before humans evolved. They had literally nothing to do with each other. What the hell are you on? Look, I know dinosaurs are cool and all, but you're not even bringing them back. You're just making robotic copies. You're making the bad guy in Carnosaur look good. Even Wily admits he's a complete idiot and is gonna ditch him once he serves his purpose. But that's not even the dumb part. With Mega and the Robot Commando police force going to try and take control of the Robosaurs, Wily unveils his true plan. That he made a robot virus that devolves the robots into cavemen. I want to repeat that. Devolve the robots into cavemen! And no, it's not like the virus just re-engineers them specifically to cavemen. They treat it like it's actively regressing robotic evolution to become cave bots. Like, robotic evolution? What the hell does that mean? Robots didn't evolve like people.
You'll all revert to the earliest and crudest robot form.
The oldest robot forms, like, wouldn't they just degrade into basic automatons? Or instead of Walt Disney making a robotic Abraham Lincoln, did he just make a robotic caveman? And there's really no reason to do this. It just makes so the cave bots obey him. Which, just make a mind control virus. Why'd you have to turn them into cavemen? If anything, you're screwing yourself over by turning every robot into a primitive, brainless ape forever. Like, nothing about this makes sense. I mean, what am I saying? This fits right in with Mega Man. Caveman was my favorite robot master. How about you guys? Anyway, Rock and Roll both get affected, turning on Neanderthal-like, and I guess proving that Mega Cell has hair under there, as Rushmouth starts growing his own. Plus, now forced to speak in caveman talk. Light has a pseudo-vaccine that can temporarily repel the effects, but needs to work on a full antidote. Rock says Roll should take it, but Roll insists that he does since he's the best chance of stopping Wily. Wait, like this exact situation played out in Mega Man 10. Did they take inspiration from this? Good lord, how influential was this episode? But luckily it did revert Mega Man before he fully transformed into Moist Critical. But also Wily had the Robot Masters take the Robosaurs, who have apparently been vaccinated against the virus to rampage across town. Hey, wait, if they're vaccinated, couldn't they like sample the vaccine from them? It should work. Roll also tags along, which again, I'm happy she plays an active role, even with the chronic case of the Ooga Boogas. However, it's not long before they get fully cavemanized and under Wily's control, and the serum's wearing off as Light somehow made the antidote, but it gets taken by Dino Dumbass.
Weren't you spoiling my plans to repopulate the world with dinosaurs, now would I?
Again, these are robot dinosaurs, not the real thing, you ain't John Hammond. But then Eddie randomly saves the day. Wait, wasn't he affected? Now, Wily has enough virus to infect all the world's robots and is going to take the antidote and destroy it.
Whatever turns you on, Wily.
Whoa, can you say that in a kid's show? Like, what does that mean in context? Wait a minute, is this why he's inexplicably turning things into cavemen? I don't want to think about it. But Mega tries to stop them, but he's turning full caveman now. And Wily probably would have gotten away with it if Toadman didn't come close to taunt him, allowing Mega to touch him to get his powers. And despite apparently being devolved to an alt mode, he still has his advanced weapon duplication powers and can use acid rain himself as the acid evaporates the antidote into the rain, spreading it through the clouds and administering the cure to everyone. Well, hopefully everyone. I hope there weren't any robots inside during this. Honestly, pretty clever solution, especially since it was foreshadowed at the beginning with how Mega Man stopped Toadman's first acid rain by evaporating a lake to dilute it. Probably the only bit of clever writing in this episode. This stupid plan was dangerously close to succeeding. But yeah, all the robots are cured, Wily and his robots are defeated and flee, and Otto is left behind because of course he is, and he never shows up again, so I'm guessing they executed him. So yeah, that was Robosaur Park. Yeah, it's completely insane and whacked out and makes absolutely no sense. But god, I love it. Like really, something about it I find so amazing. I mean, it's not that it's so drenched in its prehistoric aesthetic that has completely inexplicable caveman robots. And it's just kind of a wild ride from beginning to end. It makes you laugh so much at how completely stupid it is. It's actually my favorite episode of the show. I love it so much. It even inspired me to make the supervillain Past Master for my superhero universe because I found the idea so entertainingly stupid. But yeah, for the most part, I found season 1 pretty enjoyable, even its absolute stupidest, and I think it did a pretty good job of adapting the world of Mega Man to an action cartoon show with a ton of variety and taking advantage of the source material. But how does season 2 fare? Now, season 2 is simultaneously more of the same, but also somehow weirder. It seems that the show basically already established its identity at this point and had a good thing going, but at the same time it also got a bit more experimental, for better and for worse. You'll see what I mean. Showdown at Red Gold is almost a Western episode, with Wily after a mysterious meteorite falling to the ground. Oh, you better be careful, that isn't a good sign in a Mega Man game.
We find that meteor, we'll find Dr. Wily.
Wily is after these meteorite fragments as it makes robots superpowered and practically invincible, but at the cost of destroying them internally over time. Really interesting concept. Finally, some game-accurate difficulty.
We'll show you supercharged.
Well, as long as it's not fully charged, that sucked. I like this concept because it's a cool addition to the lore that unfortunately gets dropped after. If this show was serialized, I could fully imagine this being a reoccurring thing, but that's not really possible at the time. I also love the look of the Western town. It reminds me a lot of Mega Man 6. In fact, so many of these episodes feel just like the game levels in a creative location with themed enemies, like you're watching a playthrough of a level. I actually really love it. With that in mind, it almost makes you imagine how the game level happened in universe, how they were taken over by the Masters. Next episode is another cool set piece with Wily abducting ships at sea to convert them to a massive warship of his own creation. It's actually really cool and badass, and I want to see this as a Skull Castle. Bombman and Electman finally return, and there's a hint of Protoman wanting to be good but can't fight his programming. Though we also have some pretty out there Wily inventions like making a dream machine to implant subliminal thoughts and control important people to gain power, though it has some questionable scenes.
Yeah, it's us. Your daddy and your mommy.
Also, we tried to drain the city's power with a giant and kinda cool spider. This thing would make an awesome Wily bot. But it's not long before the series seriously gets out there and becomes a lot more like Robosaur Park. Okay, some of these might even get weirder. First off, in a horror-themed episode, hell yeah, with Wily making a bunch of monster-based bots to, I guess, film monster movies of them destroying towns to threaten nations with. I mean, it's unorthodox, but I guess it works. Hey, Mega Man and Castlevania, who would have guessed? Okay, but honestly, these guys would make like really cool robot masters. Get on it, Capcom.
Mommy's alive!
But there is one thing that seriously bothers me in this episode, and I do mean a lot. These monster robots can somehow turn humans into actual monsters. Yeah, I'm not kidding, the vampire can turn people into vampires and the werewolf can spread lycanthropy. What the hell? Dr. Light becomes a werewolf. how the hell do you make robots that turn people into monsters? They say that they turn into robots, but like how? Did they get Cybermen? Even worse, apparently if the robots are defeated, they'll turn back to normal. Again, how they say it's electromagnetism, but that makes no sense. Despite how stupid this part was, the monster enjoying part of me loves this episode. I'm just gonna assume Wily made things from supernatural magic. And I have an explanation for that, because the previous episode really just breaks the entire world building as Dr. Wily frees a weird genie-like demon named Lotos from being sealed in a container that looks like a pissed off Bill Cipher after being turned into a box. And he has actual magic to do his bidding. Yes, this episode is introducing just straight up magic in Mega Man. When did you see a Magic Man? Okay, bad example. Yeah, it seems freaking ridiculous, but then again, later on, freaking aliens exist, so maybe it's not that big a deal. And yeah, seeing Mega Man do with actual magic is freaking bonkers, especially when Lotos like brings New York to life, including the Statue of Liberty. Now, I do wonder why this isn't brought up as much as the Lion Man episode, but then again, at least this one is a more straightforward plot and antagonist, and hell, even ends with the cool giant Hydra Dragon fight as his true form. But yeah, speaking of which, there's the Lion Man. Jesus. This takes the cake as the most infamous episode of the show and maybe was a part in shaping the show's reputation. Yes, for some reason, Mega Man has to fight against weird lion people who want to turn everyone else into lion people to take over the world. Yeah, we're really doing this. Imagine showing someone this shit out of context. Even in context, this makes absolutely no sense. Now, I don't want to get into it too much. I mean, if you want more information, Rebel Taxi already covered this episode in depth a few years ago, so just watch that. But I will say some stuff. The actual explanation is that the Lion Men were Hawaiian warriors who tried to conquer the land, but got cursed to become Lion Men and could spread the curse to other people. Why would you give them this power? I have no idea. But also that I might not be a zoologist, but I'm pretty sure that lions aren't in Hawaii. I also gotta wonder, like, it's assumed that getting lion puts you in the group hive mind, but it doesn't really seem to change day one. No one seems surprised. Like, okay, I guess this is my life now. How many of you guys would be cool with just being a lion guy? Light also manages to make an anti-curse device. Okay, I know Light is able to make literally anything in this show in a millisecond. Then again, he's already tangled with magic this season before, so maybe he studied up. Doesn't help him because he and Wily get turned into NFTs. Okay, what's with Dr. Light turning Antho this season? What's next? He's gonna become a water buffalo? Lions and werewolves and cavemen, oh my. Though I also remember that Rebel Taxi made a huge deal that Tar, the Lion Man leader, just so happened to take a device from Wily's lab coat that lets him control all the robot masters, and he called it out for being bad writing, a complete forced plot point. But no, I checked. I went back and saw it was actually the same device Wily used to take the robot masters from Dr. Light in the first place. Tar just used it again to gain ownership himself. That's actually a clever callback. They didn't need to do that, so yeah, it wasn't an asshole, it was an established thing. Kind of amazing. But yeah, not only is the plot and writing terrible in this episode, but it also has by far the worst animation in the show. Now, again, I think the show's animation is solid for the most part, about on par with a lot of shows in this era, and hell, a lot better than a lot of the other video game shows. And some moments do have some really great animation, but it does kind of vary a bit depending on the episode. But this is by far the worst they got for an entire episode. Like, geez, did this episode's girlfriend become the moon? Because that's rough, buddy. But luckily, the next episode is much better and has by far the most evil Dr. Wily has been in this show, making a device to steal the moon! Actually, not really, but he is able to make a gravity device strong enough to pull the moon out of orbit. But not to Majora's Mask the world, at least at first. But that this would cause global catastrophes to nearly destroy civilization, and then having whatever government's left forced to turn to Wily as the only person who can rebuild. Holy dude, you are insane. Like, even the Robot Masters programmed for absolute loyalty are genuinely afraid and think he's gone too far. And he does pull it off. Like, seriously, thousands if not millions of people are dead from this. Oh my god. We also see young Dr. Light and Wily before we got anything official in 11, back when Light was Super Mario, and Wily a young Nicolas Cage, or maybe John Travolta. In a slightly less stupid idea, Dr. Light makes his own university. Okay, you know, that's cool, it makes sense, he's like this universe's greatest mind. But the kicker is that this is a university for robots. Like, what, why do robots need to go to school? Just program the information in them. Unless I want to do it like humans, like Jenny in My Life as a Teenage Robot. Also, it has Top Man's only appearance. And holy hell, how did they take the dumbest robot master and make him actually cool and charismatic? I don't feel like Top Man should have more Riz than me. There is one interesting episode that has Protoman joining the good side with Mega Man, even if it's obviously a ploy to sabotage them and replace Congress with robots. Give it a few years, Wily, it'll happen anyway. Though it is an interesting concept deployed of if Protoman really did become good, and the reactions of basically having a full family again, with Mega Man dealing with his emotions if it's too good to be true, and inevitable betrayal and fight that happens afterward. Again, it's one of the more interesting ideas thrown around. It's another I recommend. But then there's the famous Bad Day at Peril Park, giving us maybe the most infamous meme.
Gutsman!
That meme's existence is somehow baffling and yet perfect. So these guys are trying to gun down a child, and Mega Man has to stop them despite being human, and says he has to go easy on them. Yeah, sure. I never thought I'd see Mega Man fight his own box art, but this is coming from Funland, not Peril Park like the episode says, where the kid says Wily is turning the park goers to robots. Jeez, how many times is this gonna happen? Also with the Masters hilariously in mascot outfits giving us that scene in a bonus Hard Man. But then it's just another hypnotize the human plot, not real roboification.
Since he can't turn people into bots, he does the next best thing.
Then what happened a few episodes ago? Anyway, to defeat Wily, but like, who owns this amusement park? Did he build it all himself? Now, really, the last episode of this show is about Wily making these super toys to commit a bunch of crimes for him, but that's kind of a mediocre ending. The true finale to people is the big episode, Mega X. This is a big crossover between the classic and the Mega Man X series. Now, I haven't beaten Mega Man X because Vile is a cheap bastard, but I know enough that it takes place like 100 years later with a new Mega Man fighting out these new sort of robot masters called the Mavericks. It starts out normal enough with Wily trying to steal these special Lightonian rods with amazing energy potential, but it's followed by the factory's hilariously goofy security. It actually takes quite a while for the crossover to start, where after his failure, Wily is soon met by two of the villains in Mega Man X, Vile and the Maverick Spark Mandrill. They're so much more powerful than the robot masters with their future hardware, and basically force Wily to help them despite their hatred of humans, since he has the knowledge and resources at this time to steal the Lightonian bars, which are invaluable in the future. And with their futuristic technology, they're basically indestructible as the heroes are completely powerless. Damn, if only Iceman was here, Spark Mandrill will be cooked. So Mega's about to get killed by poison-type Bubble Fett, but of course they get saved by the arrival of X, whose futuristic arsenal allows them to fight back against the Mavericks and join forces with the heroes. God, X is somehow even more anime, it's practically uncanny. It's like a really great episode, great inclusion to this show to mix things up and hype up the new games, as well as having some of the best animation and writing in the show. If we're gonna see any episode of this show, I really recommend this one. It's great and serves as the best finale for it. But yeah, unfortunately, even though season 3 was planned, the drop in toy sales, oh yeah, there's toys, it's a 90s action show, they always had toys, pretty much put a nail in the coffin in the show, ending it where it was. And that was about it for this version of Mega Man. It honestly kind of fitted because the classic series was pretty much dropped soon after, until 2008 with Mega Man 9 and eventually 10, and then another big hiatus until 2018. And yeah, the show was pretty much forgotten for the most part, aside from some said influence on later games and minor aspects. Though, in a way, the internet did give it a second life, as in the 2000s, it was quite the source of some early internet memes that were basically a lot of 2000s kids like me's introduction to the show, and honestly, maybe even the franchise. And it still gets some love nowadays, not only from the many "hey, remember this show" from the current fans, but this user, DauntedX, somewhat recently made an amazing original song for the show that kicks some serious ass, like please listen to it.
Feels like the world is ending. Wily's done it now. Chaos in the air. Someone's gotta stop the robot master with his Mega Buster. He's ready to defend.
And also that it recently got an official release back to Japanese audiences, now you're able to see the Americanized version of the show and having some funny reactions to it. God, I want to see them react to the Lion Man so badly. So yeah, this show in a weird way has a continual legacy even to the modern day, strangely enough. But now that I watch the show, honestly I think it's kind of unfair how it's been treated. Like again, I'm a pretty easygoing guy to please, and I can appreciate some good cheese. But I really think this was a solid attempt to adapt the world of Mega Man to a Saturday morning action cartoon. Like again, you have to consider the time period the show came out and the nature of video game cartoons back then. By comparison, this is freaking amazing. The world of classic Mega Man at the time wasn't story focused at all and usually barely had any plot to string them along. So the fact that they were able to do a decent job expand this concept to multiple unique episodes is really great. And for the most part, I think they did a good job with adapting the characters as well. Sure, they're different, but I don't necessarily think it's bad, and it works for this version. It's like the Pokemon anime to me. Sure, it's kinda cheesy and has some strong variations of the characters and world, but it's an enjoyable depiction of said world outside of the relatively little the games provide. That's a nice and lovable experience. and especially compared to the other video game adaptations I've covered, it's definitely the objective best of them all, with mostly accurate depictions and most consistent decent writing and handling of plots. I feel like its reputation has been bogged down by the many memes and bad and weird episodes it has, but even then I found it so entertainingly bad and amusing that it just made me love them. That, or my standards has just been lowered by the amount of video game cartoons I watched last time, but even there I grew to love a lot of them. Maybe if I was a bigger, more die-hard Mega Man fan, I look harsher and wish it was a more traditional adaptation with the same game art style, but I am curious to see how many others genuinely react now decades later when the franchise had already gone in so many crazy directions. I mean, we can all agree it's better than Full Charge, right? But like, legit, I do implore people to check it out for themselves. I feel a lot of people haven't actually seen it. I think there's some decent and good stuff in here, and I love to see a different adaptation of an iconic brand in kind of the same way I find the other Nintendo cartoons charming in their own right. And I feel it has a lot fans can like and enjoy, such as the interpretation of the characters, the inclusions of so many robot masters from the series, and especially the tie to the Mega Man X series. So please look it up and watch it. At the very least, you're in for a fun and wacky ride. Just remember there's some cheese with this meal. Now, I would say I'm done with Mega Man, but nah, me and Captain N still have some unfinished business. But we'll get to that one soon enough. But still, for this version of Mega Man, I think we can consider this level completed.
Dr. Pedo, will you make me human?
I wanna be a real boy, not a titanium toy. Don't give my battery flattery. What I want is more gray mattery.
When worlds collide, it's a curious thing. Bet you never heard a robot and a caveman sing.